Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranam, devotees. So, again, I'm catching up to as many of the questions and answers as I can. And I'll try to also do some while on the road. But basically, two questions I want to try to address today. One was whether or not we should worship the deity of Sri Krishna as we worship the deity of Narayana. So this came from a statement about Srila Prabhupada that the deity worship should be done like Lakshmi Narayana. I'm paraphrasing. There is a direct statement. I'm not remembering the direct statement, but certainly paraphrasing that Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the standard of worship should be like Lakshmi Narayana. Secondly was whether or not there should be more emphasis in the Kali Yuga, especially on kirtan as opposed to lecturing or speaking Hari Katha. So I'm going to take the questions in reverse order with the last question first. So in that regard, certainly in this age, it's described Kaleya Doshanidhe Rajan Asteko Mahadguna Kirtanareva Krishna Shah Mukta Sangha Parambrajit. So it's mentioned clearly that in the Kali Yuga, the power of Harinam Sankirtan is the one outstanding quality in Kali Yuga that can alleviate all the faults of Kali Yuga, and when it's done in Mukta Sangha, different meanings are there, but Mukta Sangha can also mean especially when it is done in the association of pure Vaishnavas, because the potency inherent in that Harinam has the ability, like the very last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam states, Nama Sankirtaniyasa Sava Papa Pranashanam. So that Harinam has the power to uproot the very nature, the bij, because sinful life is not a singular event. There is Parabdha Karma, Aparabdha Karma, Kut, and Bij. So all of these four things, Kut means the tendency, Bij means the seed, Aparabdha Karma is those things which have not borne fruit yet but are in waiting, and Parabdha Karma obviously means those things we are experiencing now as part of our karmic unfoldment. So the nature of Harinam Sankirtan, especially done in pure association, uproots the very root, the bij, the seed of this karmic cycle, so to speak, including all sinful activities there. It's also described even Nama Bas. Vaikuntha Nama Asesha Aga Haram Vidu. It's described in Ajamelu Pakyan, right? That even Sanket Parihasam Stobam Helanamba. Even Nam Abbas has the power to remove unlimited sins. But especially that kirtan done, as we sing every morning, Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita. That kirtan that was performed by Mahaprabhu, which is imbued with praying, has the ability to uproot all kinds of sinful life. So no question in that regard, the prominence of pure kirtan, Savot Bhavena Kirtan, that means kirtan that has substance to it, right? Not Rag and Tal Kirtan. Rag and Tal Kirtan is also the Abbas of Nam. So it also has so much Sukriti file, so much benefit for those who both sing and in some cases literally perform, and those who hear it. So we cannot remove that Sukriti factor. But the real potency of Harinam, Savat Bhavena Kirtan, that kirtan which is filled with the realization of the transcendental bhavs of Harinam, that is of a different nature. That is not performance kirtan, so to speak, but that is kirtan that's based in the outpouring of the heart of that realized Vaishnava, Vaishnavi, etc. And that kind of kirtan has that power that I just mentioned to completely pranashanam, uproot all kinds of anarthas and sin, etc., etc. So certainly in the Kali Yuga, this kind of kirtan is very necessary, and some form or a bas of that kirtan is also helpful. But especially when that kirtan is a bas, then we have to understand that Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is mentioned. The swarup of Harinam is Harikatha, and one without the other is incomplete. This is a direct statement of Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, if there is Harinam, Sankirtan, but there is no Harikatha, then that Sankirtan will be incomplete. Because the Harikatha is the Swarup, it is the inner reality of Harinam. If you don't reveal what this Nam is, Srila Prabhupada mentioned in his very famous introduction to the Hare Krishna mantra, whether you understand the meaning, I'm paraphrasing again here, you understand the meaning or not, there is great benefit in hearing Harinam. But if you truly want to realize what is the real nature of Harinam, Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, how Nam is Rasa Vigraha, Punasuro Nityamukto Abhinatom Nama Namyo, how Nam is not different from Krishna, you must hear Harikatha. Because Harikatha is the revelatory power that reveals what is Harinam. So how you will have the deepest experience of Harinam if there's no Harikatha? Not only that, but remember, everything that we do, chanting, hearing, remember, all of it is seva. So the idea of seva is for the pleasure of the object of our service. So Sri Krishna, Srimati Radhika, they're appearing in the Nam. But how do you serve Nam? You serve Nam by glorifying Nam. Not only by the Nam itself, but by the Swarup of the Nam in the form of Harikatha. What is Krishna's Mahima? What is the Mahima or glory of praying? What is the Mahima of the devotees of the Lord? What is the Mahima of the teachings of the Lord? Especially when you are dealing with the very sweet Madhurya Mai Leela of the Lord. The Lord so much wants to hear this. He comes to perform that Leela here. Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manushinam Dehinam Astita. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy, Anugrahaya, performs those Leelas so that they'll be remembered and spoken about. So while doing Harinam and Harikatha together, the most efficacy is there as far as spiritual unfoldment or spiritual progress is concerned. So where there is the absence of Harikatha, then the tendency, directly or indirectly, of performance kirtan will become dominant. And the tendency will then be a predominance of self-enjoyment. The rag, the tal is nice, the atmosphere is nice, the incense is wavering through the air, everybody is dancing or swaying, eyes are closed, everybody's enjoying themselves and mutually nourishing self-enjoyment. But the whole idea of Harinam is to serve and give pleasure to Nami, means Krishna, Srimati Radhika, their associates. So if we don't remember their Leelas, we don't remember their glories, we don't remember their teachings, then how it will be great service to Harinam, which is not different from the Lord himself. So we should always keep this in mind, especially for authenticity, the statement of Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Harinam and Harikatha are indispensable. They are the Rup and Swarup of Bhagavan. Nam is the Rup of Bhagavan, and Swarup is the intrinsic nature of Bhagavan. Oh, somebody's asking a question. Oh, Haribo Chutanand Prabhu. Okay, let me get to that section and then I will try to give an answer there. So, it's very important that anytime we do Harikatha, we always begin and end the Harikatha with Harinam. You understand? It establishes the objective of Seva by doing Harinam in the beginning, and by concluding with Harinam, it indicates the hope that realization of our worshipable objective was gleaned through the Harikatha. And similarly, if we are doing kirtan, that kirtan must be accompanied at some section by Harikatha, the glories of this Harinam. Right? And of course, it should be audience appropriate. You may not have to speak what is Ras, Lila Katha, Ras Panchadhyay at every single event where you're doing kirtan. So, clearly, it should be audience appropriate. But the teachings of Bhagavan and Bhagavad Gita and the teachings of our acharyas in so many writings, they can also be spoken as part of the Swarup of Harinam to allow people to understand according to where their adhikara unfoldment is. So even if you're telling people, like I remember when we were beginning our service in Africa preaching, then we would go out for book distribution and we begin by doing Harinam. And when a significant crowd had gathered to the Harinam, then we would speak something briefly from the writings of our Srila Prabhupada or our acharyas and explain how this chanting is a means of awakening the real nature of the soul, and the soul is different from the body. So even very fundamental Gaudiya teachings or bhakti teachings can be given. And then we observed that people then took more of an interest, rather than being a phenomenon of entertainment for some people or curiosity for some people. Once they heard something about what the chanting was, their curiosity was more awakened, you understand, in a deeper way. So then they would show up at the Sunday program, and their progress in bhakti, many of those became devotees. So you can see the direct correlation between Harinam Sankirtan and Harikatha. So unfortunately, there is a tendency or a trend towards the idea of kirtan exclusively, nothing else. We'll do kirtan, and that's the Yuga Dharma, right? But they're forgetting this fact, those who espouse like they're forgetting this fact, that all of our acharyas have mentioned, and I mentioned particularly Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that you cannot have Rup without the Swarup. So there must be Harikatha. My also suggestion was that any event where kirtan is prominent, like in our Rath Yatra, right? When the Rath Yatra comes, then there should be Harikatha of Rath Yatra. What is the meaning of Rath Yatra? What is the origin of Rath Yatra? What is the significance of Rath Yatra in Mahaprabhu's pastimes? Because by hearing all of these things, especially the devotees who are participating in the Rath Yatra, their mood, their understanding while doing kirtan in the Rath Yatra will be so much enhanced. And therefore, Savot Bhavena Kirtan. That kirtan will contain the elements of the revelatory potency in the Harikatha they've heard about the Rath Yatra. Just, one thing, the amazing feature of Rath Yatra is in our Gaudiya theology such a deep thing. In Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna does not return to Vrindavan, of course in Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami Pad is explained that after killing Dantaraka, Krishna returns to Vrindavan. But it's not in Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, our Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad has mentioned in his commentary that in one form Krishna returns to Vrindavan with Nanda Maharaj, right? So there's many considerations in this regard. But from the angle of vision of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is not mentioned there as returning to Vrindavan. When the Brijabasis meet Krishna at Kurukshetra and they plead to Krishna, especially the gopis plead to Krishna, Anya Ridoya Moramana Vrindavan, Moni Vani Eka Karijani. Radhika tells to Krishna, listen, if you want to show mercy to us, then you should place your two lotus feet in my heart and return to Vrindavan, because my heart and Vrindavan are one thing. So in the Rath Yatra ceremony, this is what happened. Krishna Vardalana Jai Bhavantra. In this Rath Yatra, Mahaprabhu, who is the embodiment also of Mahabhav Sarup Shrimati Radhika, then in that form, he brings Krishna back from Dwarka right? And Grand Road is like Kurukshetra, brings the Lord back to Gundicha, which is like Vrindavan, right? Or is Vrindavan. You understand? So this is a very significant thing. This is the pinnacle of the success of all Brijabasis, that they've brought Krishna back to Vrindavan. You understand? So we should have deep meditation and all these things. There's so many different aspects to the Leela of the Rath Yatra. And now it's that season. Rath Yatra in Puri is coming up very soon. And of course, around the country already, Rath Yatras have started. So to hear the Hari Katha of Rath Yatra, how Nila Madhava came, how Nila Madhav became Jagannath, so much deep Leela is here. And so much to enliven the heart of those who are going out and doing the seva of pulling that cart, assisting Srimati Radhika in bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. So many wonderful things are there. Without the Hari Katha, then the experience becomes more external. There's certainly Sukriti. I've said this already. There's no doubt there's benefit to anyone who will perform the Rath Yatra, see the Rath Yatra, pull the cart of Rath Yatra, do kirtan in Rath Yatra, be a witness to all of that, right? There's certainly some Sukriti. But if you want the real potency of the Rath Yatra to come into your heart, then must be Hari Katha of Rath Yatra. And again, disregards any time kirtan is being done. As far as the second question is concerned, our Srila Prabhupada, as I mentioned in the beginning, has made the statement that the standard of worship in the temple should be like the worship of Lakshmi Narayana. Srila Prabhupada also mentioned and gave an example of the high class of worship that is present at Sri Radharaman temple in Braj, right? So just to make things clear, Srila Prabhupada was not speaking about worshiping the deity of Radha and Krishna as Lakshmi Narayana, because that would be Rasabhas. So Srila Prabhupada certainly was not indicating that. He was indicating the standard of worship, meaning purity, cleanliness, punctuality, the nature of what's offered, right? So he was speaking that the worship should be of a standard like Lakshmi Narayana, in terms of, especially in the West, we have so much opulence, that we should take that opulence and employ it in the service of Shri Radha and Krishna, right? And in order to give a understanding to the devotees of what was meant, he pointed out the worship of Lakshmi Narayana. If you go to the temples in Tirupati, Srirangam, other places, but then he particularly pointed out, to give more specificity to our line of worship, the temple of Sri Radharamanji in Braj. Such high class of standard of puja, everything, punctuality, all these different things are there. But it's strictly, of course, in the mood of Braj. So this is what Srila Prabhupada intended for us. He did not establish deities of Lakshmi Narayana. And if we philosophically have the concept, well, Krishna's Swayam Bhagavan, and therefore he's also Narayan, and Srimati Radhika is also Lakshmi, then our process of bhajan will be corrupted by rasabhas. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is mentioning in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Aishwar Gyanite Sakale Jagatera Mora, Aishwar Gyanite Sakale Jagatera Mora, Mrshit, Aishwarya Saitila Prem Nahi More Preet. That those whose knowledge is full of Aishwarya in their approach to Bhagavan, they're praying, Aishwarya Shaitila Prem Nahi More Preet, that it will be diminished. Because in the face of the Bhagavata, or the face of the Aishwarya of Bhagavan, then the nature of loving service does not rise above the level of dasatva. You understand? That I am the das of Bhagavan. There is no idea that I can become the friend of Bhagavan, the parent of Bhagavan, what to speak of the beloved of Bhagavan. Because the nature of the Aishwarya of Bhagavan doesn't allow the mood of love to rise beyond what is praying. Now, as you progressively go to Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura, then gradually as that opulence becomes mixed with more and more sweetness, then the level of the love and the nature of the exchange of rasa becomes more intimate. Therefore, in Ram Lila, you have personalities like Hanuman, Vibhishan, Sugriv, right? And of course, you have parental affection, Kausalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra, right? And you have so many other wonderful exchanges of relationships in Ram Lila. Certainly in Dwarka, though they know Krishna is Bhagavan, still the Mahishis of Dwarka think he is my husband. Vasudeva and Devaki, they think this is our son. You understand? So, and other members of the dynasty, this is our family member. And of course in Mathura, same thing, considerations are there. Right? The Pandavas, they also think Krishna is like our cousin, brother, very dear friend. Right? In Gaurava Sakyaras. But in Braj, the mood is exclusively that all of the Aishwarya of Bhagavan is covered by Madhurya. What is the meaning of Madhurya? Madhurya Cheshtam Savasto Charuta. So it means that every action, everything that Krishna does in Braj, though he's Bhagavan and he has so much opulence, it is all completely dominated and covered by sweetness. You understand? Therefore, every action, Madhur Adipate Akilam Madhuram, every single action of Krishna is covered by this sweetness. And because of that, it allows prem to rise to a level where it expresses itself as Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, etc. And in those moods, Bhagavan comes under the control of his devotee. We sing every year during Damodarastakam, Ittidrik Shvalilabir Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimanjantam Ayakpayantam Tadi Geshita Jesho Bhaktar Chitatvam. We sing, Satyavat Muni is telling, that let it be known to all those devotees who worship the Lord in awe and reverence, that he's only conquered, he's only put under control by the love of these Brijabasis. Therefore, anybody who wants to have the greatest expression of love must do the anugatya of following of these Brijabasis. You understand? So, even though Krishna is Bhagavan, by the function of Yogmaya, none of the Brijabasis accepted he's Bhagavan. When Garg Muni did the naming ceremony, he mentioned, Nandastu Atmajo, Nandastu Atmaja, Narayana Shamaguna. Right? That your son will have qualities like Narayana. So whatever Aishwarya manifests in Braj, it is reconciled by these words of Gargarishi. That your son has qualities like Narayana. But the mood of their prem is so high, their Madhujamayi prem and Vatsalya Rasa, Sakya Rasa, Madhurya Rasa, that they take that Krishna is our son, Krishna is our very dear friend, Krishna is our beloved. You understand? And for those who are following in the mood of Rup Manjari, Rati Manjari, etc., like Manjari Bhav, they will think Manisha Nattadve, Rajavipina Chandravane, Sarim Nattadve. That actually, that Krishna is the prananath of my Swamini. So my worshipful objective is the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika, and because Krishna is so dear to her, then we also love Krishna so much. You understand? But that Krishna, he will have to perhaps beg to our worshipful Gurujan like Rup Manjari, Rati Manjari, Lavang Manjari. He'll have to beg their permission to get the darshan of our Swamini. Right? You understand? So such high class of love is present in Braj. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying himself that that kind of Aishwarya is not as pleasing to him as the nature of the love of the Brijabasis. Also it's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is this? Priya Yariman Kori Tandra Batsan Vedastute Hoite Hari Vedastute Hoite Hate Hari She Moraman. If the gopis will tell to Krishna, oh, you're a lampat, a debauchee, you're a cheater, you're insignificant, or so many other seemingly insulting things. These things are so sweet to the ear of Krishna that if thousands of Brahmins are lined up and they're reciting the Purusha Shukta, Sahasra Sirisa Purusha, etc., right? Then Krishna's mind will be stolen away by that. Nam tastami vaikunte yoginam hrideshuva tatas tastami narda. Wherever my bhaktas are chanting my name, especially these sweet names, Kanai, Nandalal, Yashoda Nandan, Nanda Nandan, where these names are being chanted with deep love and affection, Krishna's heart and mind, everything is stolen. And therefore he immediately runs to that place. So, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in terms of punctuality, cleanliness, and standards that the worship should be like Lakshmi Narayana. But he's never indicated that we should worship Radha and Krishna as Lakshmi Narayana. If somebody has inclination to worship Lakshmi Narayana, then in the Sri Sampradaya, very high class of worship goes on of Lakshmi Narayana in many, many temples. But if you've come in the line of Mahaprabhu, or you're following the line of Mahaprabhu, then the worship is the worship of the mood of Braj. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pads explain that. Aradjo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayasta Dhamma Vrindavana Ramyaskas Chirupasna Vrajvadu Varagena Yakalpita. Srimad Bhagavatam Praman Mamalam. He says Srimad Bhagavatam is the Praman for this type of worship. And this Srimad Bhagavatam is our law book. It is our everything. Right? Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is actually not different from Radha and Krishna. It is the very root of Radha and Krishna. Understand? So Srimad Bhagavatam is not just a book, it's the actual direct form of Radha and Krishna. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam is also offered worship. That's why we treat Srimad Bhagavatam like deity. You understand? Like a vigraha. Because it's directly the form of Shri Radha and Krishna themselves. So here, everything that we understand in terms of our practice is gleaned from Srimad Bhagavatam and then all of the literatures which support Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? And that means all of the Vedic Sastra in pursuance of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and the manifestation of Chaitanya Bhagavat Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the sequel, continuum, and expansion of Srimad Bhagavatam, and all of the teachings of our Goswami Varga, which are filled with explanations and extrapolations of Srimad Bhagavatam. You understand? So Achyutananda Prabhu, you're asking the question about the worship of Shalagram. So, Shalagram is of many different varieties. So, for instance, Radha Ramanju has manifested from a Damodar Shila of Shila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So, that was a Damodar Shila that manifested the form of Shri Radha Ramanju. So, depending on the nature of that Shalagram, the worship is done. But, at the same time, I've also heard, just like in the beginning of Geet Govinda, very high class of Rasa Sastra of Jayadev Goswami Pad. But in the song, Dasavatar Stotram, he addresses all the 10 avatars. But he addresses all these 10 avatars as simply characteristics of Sri Krishna. So he's not saying, like blindly, well, because Krishna Swayam Bhagavan, then Narasingha, Kurama, Matsya, etc., they're all they're all of the same nature. They're all God. In Madhurya Kandamini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad quotes Jiva Goswami Pad. Bhagavat Stavad Asadharana Aishwarya Madhurya Tattva Visesh. He describes that Krishna is Asadharan in the category of Bhagavan. Means the word Asadharan means ordinary, regular. Like Sadharana Rati of Kubja. Means her love is like regular lust or love, but because it was geared towards Krishna, our Goswamis have called it Sadharani Rati. Right? So this word Sadharana means ordinary. So Krishna in the category of God is Asadharana, uncommon. Because Aishwarya Madhurya Tattva Visesh Swarup Paramananda. Because Krishna's Roop reconciles Aishwarya and Madhurya in a unique form or presentation in which the Madhurya dominates, but the Aishwarya is still present there. My Guru Parapadma Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Paraparamuksa Tarasisima Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, he would often say that every single dust particle of Vrindavan is full of more opulence than the Vaikuntha planets combined. But it's all covered completely by sweetness. So we should not think that there's no Aishwarya in Vrindavan. It's more opulence even in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha's Janito Varu Madhupuri. Madhupuri is superior to Vaikuntha. How could it be if Vaikuntha has something that Madhupuri, meaning Braj, doesn't have? So all opulence is present in Braj, but it is covered by sweetness. And because of the dominance of that sweetness, it gives facility to the higher levels of praying. And Krishna is controlled by praying. Understand? Therefore, it's mentioned that the only means of worship of Krishna is in the mood following the Brijabasis, for those in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You understand? Achyutananda Prabhu, that word is asadharana, if you're trying to figure out that. Asadharana. Right? So I think it's Asardana. Asadharana. Right? It means uncommon. Sadharana means common. Asadharana means uncommon. So it's mentioned there that Sakale Jagate More Vairi Bhakti Brajabhav Paiti Nahi Sakti. That if a person wants to worship Krishna, then it cannot be done by Vairi Bhakti, because the gati or goal of Vairi Bhakti is Vaikuntha. So by Vairi Bhakti, one cannot worship Shri Radha Krishna Yugal. Oh Mukunda, this is a quandary here now, because I thought that we were practicing Vairi Bhakti because we're not eligible for Raganuga Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada has never introduced the practice of Vairi Bhakti. Every single system of practice of service towards the Lord is imbued with vidhi, means rules and regulations. You understand? Raganuga Bhakti doesn't mean the absence of rules and regulations. Raganuga Bhakti refers to the goal by which you are performing these rules and regulations for. What are you doing it for? If you are doing these to obtain the service of Rajendra Nandan Sri Krishna, it is Raganuga Bhakti. And prior to eligibility for the true earnest practice of Raganuga Bhakti, it is called Raganuga Pravritti. In other words, it is the progressive practice towards coming to eligibility for in earnest practice of Raganuga Bhakti. So there is no Vairi Bhakti purely being practiced. We are following Vidhi. And in that regard, our acharyas have mentioned, yes, by Vairi Bhakti. We should understand what they mean by Vairi Bhakti. It means the following of the Vidhi, to wait doing Mangalarti, Guru Padashraya, all of the different angas of Bhakti, 64 angas of Bhakti, to chant a fixed number of rounds. These are Vidhis. You cannot practice Bhakti without these things. But the goal of doing these things for us is to obtain the service of Srimati Radhika, or at least any mood of Brijabasis. And because it cannot be obtained according to Chaitanya Charitamrita by Vairi Bhakti, it is axiomatically then in the category of Rag. Why? Because it follows in aspiration the moods of those who are Ragatmik. Ragatmik means the eternal associates of Bhagavan whose hearts are filled with a particular type of Rag or attachment to Bhagavan. We want to serve Bhagavan like them. We're doing the anugatya of those eternal associates. Like Rupa Manjari comes to this world as Rupa Manjari comes to this world as Rupa Goswami. We're following the teachings and practices laid out by Rupa Goswami to obtain the mood of Rupa Manjari. So we're following Vidhi in order to obtain that. That is Raganuga. And before there's true eligibility, we're in pursuance of that eligibility. It is called Raganuga Pravritti, the progressive path to eligibility to practice Raganuga. Understand? So we should not be confused about the idea of how we are approaching the worship of Radha Krishna, or in Braj, Krishna Balaram, or any place Srila Prabhupada has established the deities of Radha and Krishna or Krishna Balaram, right? Srila Prabhupada, to my knowledge, has only established Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. Perhaps it was told, from what I understand, I don't know the exact story, Our Pujapat Srila Guru Govind Swami Maharaj established also in Bhubaneswara. We have also here New Raman Reti, here in Alachua, right? They've also established. But directly by Srila Prabhupada, I think only Vrindavan. And much of that to do with the Leela Stan of Raman Reti, which is a Leela Stan of the Sakas playing, right? So, particularly we should be clear on these things, right? That what is our aim and objective, and we should practice with that aim and objective always in view. That is called Sambandha Gyan. We will hear from Shri Guru, especially at the time of Diksha, what is Sambandha Gyan? What is your aspirational goal? Therefore, what should your meditation be? And we're not reinventing the wheel, because our Srila Prabhupada and our whole Gaudiya line has given a protocol and practice system that we follow. So if you really carefully, and every time I travel, if I've not done Harikatha in that place, or haven't done it in a long time, I reiterate the importance of the dhyan or meditation regarding the system of practice that we currently have. Because this is the methodology by which we're unfolding to that goal that we want to obtain. So we need to understand from morning to evening, all of the sadhachar and all of the sadhana that's performed, what's its meaning, what's its significance. And you'll see it's all in the category of Rag Marg. From the time you wake up in the morning and do your stav and stuti to Shri Guru, to Bhagavatam, Mother Earth, all the different stav and stutis you do according to your personal situation. And then, of course, your attendance of the Mangalarti, singing of Guru Astakam. Guru Astakam alone can reveal so many things. I've spoken on Guru Astakam so many times. And I've also heard Harikatha of Guru Astakam so many times. So to understand the deep dhyan or meditation that's involved there. And then the meditation on doing Tulsi Seva. And then chanting your Anik. What is the meaning of all the mantras in Gayatri, etc. Then understanding Harinam and how it's related. Right? Then all of your sevas throughout the day. Right? Then the Sundararti of Mahaprabhu. Then the Yugalarti of Radha Krishna after Sundararti of Mahaprabhu. You know, so the whole system is built around unveiling the actual goal. But we have to be attentive to the unveiling process. Right? We have to pay attention to the bhajan. I mentioned yesterday on our Monday night a phone conference class, Niyamagraha is a very important thing to understand. So Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha, either not following the rules and regulations or following them ritualistically, will not help your bhakti to grow. You understand? Because once you start ritualistic practice, then bhakti becomes like a religion. You understand? It's not a relationship, it becomes a religion. Yeah, Krishna consciousness is my religion, and these are my practices. And then what happens is, I mentioned last night on the phone conference, I'm going beyond the purview of the question right now, but I think it's important, is we start to develop a concept that simply by fidelity in the practice and faith symbolized by my joining and accepting the wearing of Vaishnav China like Tilak and Kaunti Mala, etc. Then when I die, I'm automatically going to go back home, back to Godhead. So this theology is popping up within the true Gaudiya theology because in many cases there's not a deep meditation and dhyan on the practice itself. And because of that, there's not necessarily the ability to feel or realize, except in an external way, where we're more dominated by the mode of goodness. We feel better about our eating, better about our environment, better about the company we keep, right, is one thing. But the true inner realizations about the nature of your Atma, about the identity of your Atma, etc., because those things are not coming, because the practice has been separated by formality and ritualism, right? Then the true unfoldment of the Swarup Shakti embedded in the practice is not revealing in the heart of the practitioner the true revelations regarding the Atma, their relationship with Bhagavan, etc. So because as we go on practicing longer and longer in that way, we become kind of set in the idea, well, this is what it is. I've not heard ankle bells or heard a flute or anything. I guess this is what it is. I'm just going to practice. And then anytime somebody passes away, we say, oh, they've gone back to the spiritual world. They've gone back to Krishna now, right? We've started to accept it almost in the same fashion as fidelity in Christianity. If you avow your acknowledgement of Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, then, you know, regardless of how much depth you experience in Christianity in reality, that avowing and following at least the tenets, you're guaranteed to go back to heaven. But it's not like that in Bhakti, right? You actually genuinely have to have your Atma come into a position where it becomes one with the Swarup Shakti. This is expressed in the verse of Narada Muni when he's speaking to Vyasadeva. Prayujamani mai tvam surim bhagavatim tanum. Parabdha karma nevano anyapatat panchabodhika. When all parabdha karmas were gone, anyapatat panchabodhikam, and the body of 5 elements was no longer needed, and it falls away, then prayuj, a complete connection between the Atma and Swarup Shakti takes place. When that takes place, Suram Bhagavatim Tanum, a Tanu, a body which is filled with Swarup Shakti and its own identity, relationship, and everything else, right, is one with the Atma. That body is then suitable for the service of Bhagavan, and it is in that body that one is transferred to wherever Krishna is performing his Leela in the universe in their next life, where they will come into the association of the eternal associates, and their prem will grow. And their Vastu Siddhi body, their eternal spiritual body will be there, and their prem will go through stages according to the nature of their rasa. You understand? So we have to be in tune with these things, and that requires some depth of contemplation and meditation on the practice. So we're not doing it rote, right? All right, I think that hopefully explained the answer to Prabhuji's question, and also to Diddy's question, who asked the question about the kirtan, and so forth. All right, my dandavat pranams, vancha kalpaturvishya, vipashindavevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Radhe Radhe, Jai Chitananda Prabhu, Sadan Siddha Prabhu, other devotees, Lalita Sakhi, who came on. And Chitananda Prabhu, thank you so much for your help with the preaching mobile. I have not forgotten how much you helped me, and you'll be surprised if you see it now. Jai Haribol Radhe Radhe.